Hi, my name is Cheyenne, and I'm going to provide you some information on the Black Power movement. So what is the Black Power movement? It is, and this was a definition retrieved from encyclopedia.com, a collective action-oriented expression of racial pride, strength, and self-definition that occurred through all strata of Afro-America during the late 1960s and early 70s. So the Black Power movement was created to fight for racial equality, and it was fighting for the same rights as during the Civil Rights Movement, which came immediately after. A very influential leader in the Black Power movement is Stokely Carmichael, and he coined the term Black Power. He was ready to take a different approach into enacting change in the fight for the rights of African Americans, and that was from the NDLA. And the Black Power movement had a bit of a different approach from the Civil Rights Movement. The Civil Rights Movement focused more on a nonviolent approach, where the Black Power movement had more of an aggressive approach to reaching the goals for racial equality, which is also from the NDLA. So some goals for the movement. Of course, I've already said that it was a nonviolent approach, which the nonviolent approach was from Martin Luther King, which was for the Civil Rights Movement, and as for the Black Power movement, they believed that the nonviolent approach was a little too slow for pace. It took a while for change to happen when we're only using nonviolent practices. So with the Black Power movement, they decided to take a more aggressive approach, and this would hopefully get them to see faster results. The socialist worker says that the Black Power movement focused on Black pride and embraced the traditions of African American resistance. The socialist worker also said, the socialist worker is a website, that principles of justice and equality weren't enough. A more militant form of struggle was needed to fundamentally transform society. So this would be maybe walking around out with guns or any type of a little bit of more fear and force that the Black Power movement could enforce. This video that I'm going to play for you is it's about 2 minutes. It's a short little excerpt of Stokely Carmichael presenting it, I'm going to assume, as a press conference, and it is a famous line that he has when he talks about the Black Power movement.
People don't totally lose their mind, because we'll pick up the pieces and we'll turn it into a new dance.
Now, let us begin with the modern period. I guess we could start with 1956 for our generation. This was the beginning of the rise of Dr. Martin Luther King. Dr. King decided that in Montgomery, Alabama, black people had to pay the same prices on the buses as did white people, but we had to sit in the back. And we could only sit in the back if every available seat was taken by a white person. If a white person was standing, a black person could not sit. So Dr. King and his associates got together and said, this is inhuman. We will boycott your bus system. Now understand what a boycott is. A boycott is a passive act. It is the most passive political act that anyone can commit, a boycott. Because what the boycott was doing was simply saying, we will not ride your buses. No sort of antagonism. It was not even verbally violent. It was peaceful. Dr. King's policy was that nonviolence would achieve the gains for black people in the United States. His major assumption was that if you are nonviolent, if you suffer, your opponent will see your suffering and will be moved to change his heart. That's very good. He only made one fallacious assumption. In order for nonviolence to work, your opponent must have a conscience. The United States has none.
So in that excerpt of what Stokely Carmichael is talking about, he is saying that, so Dr. Martin Luther King's approach, because it was non-aggressive, he was hoping that when people reacted in an aggressive manner, that they should feel guilty, they should feel bad, and therefore change should happen. But that didn't happen to be the case in many situations with the civil rights movement. So Stokely Carmichael decided that because this is not working, we're going to try an aggressive approach, because people are not feeling bad for hurting those who are doing sit-ins or sitting in the back of the bus and using any type of nonviolence. So another form that came out of the Black Power movement was the Black Panther Party, and this was founded by Huey Newton and Bobby Seale. The party's practices were deeply rooted in the ideas of Malcolm X, and they focused more of their ideas on Malcolm X as opposed to Dr. Martin Luther King. And of course they were militant practices that were going to gain them racial equality, and that was from Baggins. Baggins also says that the party's first protest occurred at California's state capitol. And at the state capitol, the Black Panther Party approached on the lawn all armed in weaponry and guns, and they were protesting the state's attempt to outlaw carrying loaded weapons in public. The result of that is that they were arrested and they were taken down, so their protest was cut short. That was just one of the few things that the Black Panther Party has done in the movement for Black Power. Some other things that did happen during the Black Power movement that came in the world of sports that brought attention on more of a global scale that wasn't happening in just one specific area. Tommie Smith, who was a gold medalist, and John Carlos, who was a bronze medalist at the 1968 Olympics in Mexico City. During the national anthem, they did the symbol for Black Power. And the result of this is that they were suspended from the U.S. team. They also did receive a lot of death threats, but Cosgrove says that neither man nor apologized for his raised fist or his bowed head, and neither had needed to. So they were not, they also explained that, Smith explained, I was not going against the national anthem, we were not, protesting the national anthem, we were actually just saying that we're thinking of the racial inequality that's happening, and we're putting something out there to see that, we are in support of this, but they were not showing any hatred towards the national anthem. And actually, the silver medalist who, right next to them, Peter Norman, he supported their protests. They were asked after this protest what his ideas were on it, and he said he was in full support of it. And Smith was quoted saying that we're just human beings who saw a need to bring attention to the inequality in our country. And Cosgrove also quoted Smith saying, I don't like the idea of people looking at it as negative. There was nothing but a raised fist in the air and a bowed head, acknowledging the American flag, not symbolizing the hatred for it. So there he's explaining that we're just bringing attention to racial inequality. There's no hatred towards the national anthem or our country. So the impact of the Black Power movement is that many African Americans have been able to obtain more civil rights. And NPR stated that politically, African Americans can now owe their rights to being elected into political positions or even becoming president to the Black Power movement. So they were explaining that because of the Black Power movement, now we are able to have people like Condoleezza Rice, Barack Obama has been our president. We're able to make those changes now due to some of the results from the Black Power movement. And these are my references.